Aries, thanks for visiting. This is your reading for September the 16th to September the 22nd. And as I always ask, if you like this reading, please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you would like to. And I'm just going to start your reading right now. So the first card you have for your past is the Three of Cups. This is a fantastic card, a really, really positive, really beautiful card. You know, I actually think things have been a lot better for you generally in terms of your focus. I think you have a much clearer focus than you have had for a long time. It's more of an external focus, but it's a very clear focus. Definitely career-wise, I think you know a little bit more where you're heading, and I think other things are falling into line with that as well. I think for a long time you were a little bit lost in terms of which direction you want to go in. I'm actually seeing excuse me, I'm seeing three different kinds of ideas or directions or paths kind of floating around in your head, and you were like, oh, will I do this, will I go here? And I think in the end you just went with your heart, you went with your instincts. I don't think you've totally 100%, excuse me, sorry about my throat, I don't think you've 100% kind of got to the end of making this decision, but I think you're pretty sure about what you want to do, because you went with your instincts, and I think for you that's always the right way to go. You know, if you look at the women on this card, they're holding their cups up above their heads, so they're placing their emotions above their heads, above their minds, and that's what you're doing. It's not like you are kind of all basing your decision on emotions, but you're basing them on your intuition, things that aren't concrete. You know, I think a lot of people around you sort of look at you, and you know, I think this has probably happened all throughout your whole life. You've just made these instinctive decisions, and they've come straight from your heart, and they work, and you just do them. And I think other people look at you and say, well, why are they doing that? What are they doing that for? What's this Aries person doing that? That's crazy. You know, I don't do that. I stick to a very kind of clear, safe path. I'm very safe. Look at them, they're kind of jumping over here, doing this thing. What's wrong with them? But it works for you. It absolutely works for you. It doesn't work for everyone else. There are a lot of signs that would be driven crazy by your decision making, but it absolutely works for you because you know what your inner truth is. You know what your inner truth is, and you know when you don't follow that, you can really suffer internally and externally. You know that it's not right. You have this kind of thing inside you. You know, you did this time. I think you followed your heart, and I think there'll be an abundance coming from that. This card's about abundance. Abundance doesn't necessarily have to mean financial abundance, but I am seeing that coming. I'm seeing your money gradually increasing and increasing over time because of this decision. There'll be an improvement there, but the real abundance here, it's going to be about your growth, your inner growth. You haven't quite done that proper growth inside yet. You're starting that, I think, but it is coming. You've probably felt that already. You probably know that's coming. You can feel that inside yourself. It's something that's a little bit, it can be a bit difficult to feel sometimes. You know, you're like, oh, I'm realizing this bad thing and this good thing and this bad thing, but it's all kind of coming to light. So sometimes that feels good, sometimes it doesn't. So you're going through this difficult process. I think you've been going through this in the last few months, maybe even the last 5 months. So you're still going through that, I think, as well. Another thing that's really standing out to me in this card is the dresses on these women. They're red and they're white. And, you know, one's a little bit more orange, but they're kind of fiery colours, and the white's kind of, you know, innocence and purity. So they all kind of go together, the red and the white, in this way, because it's just making me think of, you know, the clothes that monks traditionally wear, Buddhist monks. They always wear red or orange or variations of those kind of fiery colours. And for them, that symbolises a flame, which is a symbol of truth for them. You know, they have the truth in their heart. They have this inner flame, and they have to carry that inner flame of truth in their heart all the time. And they wear those clothes to remind them of that. And that's exactly like Aries people. You know, you have the flame of truth inside you. Aries can be brutally honest sometimes. I know I can be sometimes. I have to be careful of that. But, you know, they follow their own flame. They follow what they want to do, and it's inside their heart. So if you're trying to make a decision, if you're ever trying to make a decision and you have this kind of awkward or any kind of negative feelings around that, that means you're going against your inner flame. And I think you know that. I hope that makes sense to you. I know I went a little bit off track, but I hope that makes sense. All right, so the next card you have your past is the Seven of Wands. Okay, so because you do have this kind of super honest, super passionate heart of fire almost. And it can cause you problems sometimes, but it's a good thing because you can kind of find out whether someone else is honest or not. You know that kind of instinctively a lot of the time. If you look at this poor man, he's kind of fighting off whoever's holding these wands, and we can't see the person or the people. We can't see who's holding the wands. I think you're kind of battling someone at this time. And they weren't showing you who they truly are, because we can't see these people. So they weren't showing you who they truly are. They were kind of battling you, and they weren't making out that they were battling you. They might have been making out that they were kind of your friend or talking to you or being very nice to you. But actually they were hiding their true intentions, because again, you can't see any of these people's faces that are behind these wands. And I am seeing one specific person. I'll try and explain this. It's a bit difficult, but I'll try. Yeah, I think they're being very friendly. And I think you kind of knew instinctively what their intentions were, that they weren't really that friendly person they were making out. I actually think they're underestimating you a lot. They didn't realise how smart you actually are. You're a very intelligent person. And I think in their head, this is going to sound horrible, but I think they underestimated how intelligent you are. And you were keeping this to yourself actually as well. You're not normally like this. You usually kind of come out and say something, because you're suspecting something from this person. You were suspecting that they weren't being who they were. But I think for that time you weren't saying anything. I think it will come out eventually. It'll come out eventually. Because I don't think you can help yourself. You're going to say something. I think either that or something else will happen before you can. But yeah, it's almost as if this. I know this is going to sound horrible, but this isn't me saying this. This is what I think this person was thinking. They thought you were less intelligent and less switched on than you actually are. Because I'm looking at these two shoes this man's wearing. He's got two different shoes on, and usually if someone has two different shoes on, obviously they're not on the ball. They don't know what they're doing. So I think that's how they looked at you, and that's why they were kind of being a little bit sneaky or shady or something. They're like, oh, they won't realise, I'll just do this. You do realise, you absolutely do realise you are a million times sharper than they are. And, you know, again, you're on top of this. You're ahead of them. You know you are. This man might have two different shoes on, but he's up on top of a hill. And the people who he's battling are down lower than that hill. So you're up above them. You're above them. You know what's going on. It's going to come out in some way at some time that you know this. Anyway, the last card you have your past is the Nine of Wands. So yeah, again, with this person, it's like you were talking to them, but you weren't revealing much about yourself. I think they might have been trying to get you to actually reveal certain things. You know, it's like they're trying to understand more of you so that they could, almost like manipulation. It's really horrible, but you knew what was going on. You knew what was happening, and you were guarding yourself like this man. In a certain way you were guarding yourself, but you were still coming forward to them a little bit. You weren't letting them know you were guarding yourself, because there's not a full fence here. He's kind of standing out in front of the fence, but the fence is still there. And the big thing standing out to me in this card is he's got this great big wide eye. It's really big and really obvious. So your eyes were open. Your eyes were open. You knew what their agenda was. You knew what they were doing. And also, you knew that this wasn't a person you wanted to have around you. You're kind of keeping them at arm's length and kind of deciding what you were going to do. But you knew that this wasn't a person you wanted around you, because if you look at these wands with this wall, there's all this growth coming out of them, all these leaves and everything. That's what's kind of catching my eye. So you knew that you were going to grow a lot better, and things were going to be better for you if you were away from this person. So you knew that they weren't someone you wanted to have around you, and your eyes were open. Look at his eye. But you weren't revealing this now, which is really unusual for you. You are either going to do that, or something is going to reveal that, and it's going to be very obvious and you won't have to say something. It's one or the other. That's what I'm seeing. Okay, so the first card you have your presence, the Hermit. Yeah, this is a little bit of what I was seeing in the Three of Cups. This is interesting that this is here. You kind of know where you're going now externally. You have that focus. There's a lot of restlessness around you, though. That's what I'm feeling here. A lot of restlessness inside you. Now, again, I think you might be trying to fix that by maybe thinking things like, oh, once I have this object, once I have this thing, once I've achieved this amount of success, once I have this, or once I'm in this place, or whatever it is, I'll feel much better. Now, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'll try and say this in a way that I hope it does. The destination you're trying to get to, the thing that you want, even though you might not realize this, or you might kind of have some idea of this because you are going through this process, it's an internal destination. It's an internal thing. It's a spiritual destination. That's where you're trying to get to, whether you realize it or not. So I don't necessarily mean that it has anything to do with religion. It's a very personal thing. Each individual finds this in their own unique way. They find this kind of inner spiritual destination in some way. Some people do find it in organized religion. Some people don't. Some people find it by there are a million different ways you can do that, because more than a million, because your way is your individual way that suits you. Now, Aries, usually they can be people of action, which is fantastic. They get a lot done. But sometimes people can create a lot of action, a lot of activities, a lot of things, and that kind of masks how they're feeling internally. And quite often, you know, the world tells us that our self-worth is all about what we have. You know, if we have this house, if we have this car, if we have this thing, if we have whatever. And it's not about that at all. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going after those things if that's what you want to do. I do not have a problem with that at all. A lot of spiritual people will say, oh, that's not what you should be after. I'm not about that. But if you do go after those things, they have to come from what's happening in you internally. So if you get yourself right internally, if everything's right internally, what you want comes from that. Sometimes houses and cars and all of that stuff comes from that. Quite often when you do find your peace internally, you'll find that what you want changes, and it isn't those things. Everyone should have a certain amount of comfort. Everyone has the right to have whatever they like. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. But I think sometimes when you do go into that spiritual find that spiritual place inside yourself, quite often the focus of what people want outside of that does change. Sometimes it doesn't. That's absolutely fine. Each person's different. But what this hermit is doing, he's getting that time to himself. He's probably meditating. He's thinking very carefully. He's concentrating on what's going on the inside. And I think a lot of people are probably look at this hermit and they'd laugh and say, oh, what's he doing? He's not doing anything. He's a bit useless. He's a silly old man with a long beard and he's just walking along by himself. What's he doing? You know, I'm working, I'm achieving this, I'm doing that, I'm getting this. He's not doing any of that. What he's doing is really, really important. Very, very important, because what he achieves after he has that center of self is going to be a lot more meaningful to him internally. It's not going to be about, oh, I'm buying this house to show off to this person, or I'm getting this car to show off to this neighbor, or I'm doing this so that I look good to the outside world. No, he doesn't care about how he looks to the outside world. Look at him, he's in these big robes and a big beard and everything. He doesn't care what he looks like. He cares about himself internally, and everything he achieves externally is what he truly wants from his inner core. That's what I'm getting in that. I think that's the process you're going through, and I think if you're having a lot of stresses about backwards and forwards things, do I want that? Do I not? Do I want to have that thing or not? Do I really want to make that decision or not? That's because a lot of your decisions that you're trying to make might not come from your inner core. So you have to find that first and then make the decisions. I'm not saying don't make any decisions and sit there like a hermit forever and not do anything. That's not what I'm saying. It's a process that you need to do while you're in the world, obviously. But that's just something to think about. That's what I'm seeing in that Hermit card. I really hope that made sense to you. Okay, so the next card you have your presence, the Three of Wands. Okay, this is what I'm seeing in this. This is obviously the card of waiting. I'm seeing a few things here. I think you might be waiting for something. You might not be taking it all that seriously. It might have something to do with what I'm seeing in the Hermit card. It might not be what you truly want. I think you've started to do research on whatever this is. And it feels a little bit half-hearted. It's like, I want this, but I don't know. You're having all of that. So again, firstly, go back to your center, go back to your core, meditate, think about all of that. And then I think the right things will come to you. And the other thing to think about is if what this thing is, if it doesn't give you that fiery feeling that I was seeing in the Three of Cups, it might not be the right thing for you. So that's something you have to think about as well. Not always. I don't want to tell you what to do. We can lose our enthusiasm for a lot of different reasons, but have a think about that as well if that resonates with you. The other thing I'm seeing in this card is someone's absolutely, definitely thinking about you. They're thinking about you. They're hoping for you. It's very strange. They're in two minds as well. Yeah, I think they've been thinking about you for a while. I think at one time they might have felt as if they put a lot of work in to be able to see you or just to be around you. You're not around them now. You're not there now, but I think they're still thinking about you. They're thinking about you all the time, actually. And this isn't about whether this is right or wrong, but this is what they're thinking about you. This isn't what I'm thinking. This is what I think they're thinking about you. I think that they're thinking that they put more effort in, and they put a lot of effort in, and you just put a little bit of effort in, and they feel as if they put more in than you. That's what I'm seeing. I know I was a bit long-winded when I was explaining that. I'm trying to get my head around what I'm seeing and trying to put what I'm seeing into words. So the big word I'm getting here is accommodating. So it's like they're thinking something like, I was really accommodating. I did everything to accommodate this person, and they didn't appreciate. They didn't do anything for me back. They didn't give me anything back. I'm really upset. I'm really hurt about that, but I still think about them. And that's what I'm getting. So now if I feel that way about someone, and I've been in that situation where I've given a lot to someone, I didn't get anything back, they treated me terribly, so I was like, well, I'm not going to do any more for them, I'm just going to move on, goodbye. They're not doing that. It's like they're not happy with you, but they're still not moving on. That's what I'm seeing. So they've still got this kind of thing going on in their head, this kind of, I feel this way, I still have a lot of feelings for them, but I'm still really annoyed with them, on the other hand. That's what I'm getting coming from them. Okay, so the last card you have your presence, the Eight of Cups. Okay, so yeah, this is exactly the same thing I'm seeing here. Sorry, I hope I didn't scratch the microphone. I just scratched myself. Sorry about that. I keep on touching my microphone without realising it. I don't mean to. I'm moving my hands all over the place. You can't see them when I'm talking. Okay, so yeah. Same thing again in this card. I think you actually might have had this exact same card in your last reading, actually. So again, you're not around this person, you're not talking to them. I don't think they're talking to you either. They're definitely still thinking about you, and they're still very emotional. This is a big wall of cups here, and they're watching you. They're probably watching you from far away. Sometimes when I look at this card, I see this wall of cups, there's a gap in the wall, and I think the exact same thing, the exact same scenario actually was in your last reading, because I'm getting big deja vu coming back to me. It's like, I was here before. So they're looking at you through this gap of emotion. So once again, if you know who this is, they still watch you, probably on social media or whatever, wherever you are, if you're on whatever platform you're on. They'd love to speak out, I think. They want to do that. They'd love to be able to clear the air. There's something that they feel that's still hanging around in the air, and they'd love to clear that. There's some bad feeling, something's not quite finished for them, it's hanging around. but they can't do that. There's still a lot of fear around them as well. So again, they're kind of on one side, on the other side, full of contradictions. Fear, it's like, I want to do this, I want to talk to them, but there's this fear around this. I want to clear the air, I'm kind of afraid. So these two things are kind of going around and round in the head, a little bit like this man's going around this hill. To me, when I see this, it's like he's going around and around. So yeah, they're emotional, they're struggling, and they've still got all these contradictions in their head. That's what I'm seeing in that card. All right, so the first card you have, you future, is the Queen of Cups. Okay, so there's also someone else here. I'm seeing a different person again. So you've got three main people in this card. You've got the shady person in the Seven of Wands. You've got this person who probably a love connection, or it was, or something, in the Eight of Cups and the Three of Wands. And you've got this other person again here that I'm seeing again. And I'm having very, very warm, very lovely feelings when I look at this. The Queen of Cups, she's a very emotional, very sensitive person. So there's someone else here in this card. They'd love to be around you. I'm not seeing a love connection here. This is someone who's really, really caring. And I think what I'm getting is I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them. So they'd like to see more of you. They have a few health problems around them, I think, but I don't think that's what's stopping them from being near you. And they're well loved. A lot of people love this person. Children love this person. Just look at this card. There are these two cherubs on the back of her throne. These two little children, they look like babies. They're absolutely gorgeous. And they're kind of looking over the back of her, and they're watching her with all this love. It's like, oh, I'm sitting here, I'm kind of almost asleep, like a little baby's almost asleep and have their eyes open, and they're just looking at you. And it's like, oh, I love this person. I put all my trust in this person. And, you know, I just adore them. They're always there. When I see their face and I wake up, I smile. That's the kind, it's just two little tiny babies. They're so beautiful. And so maybe they have children. If they do, these children absolutely love them. But what I'm seeing is there's a little bit of discontent around them, and that's because they want to see more of you. I keep on getting this, I want to see you, I want to see you. I don't know if you're going to see them. If you're not, I would try to see them as soon as I possibly can. That might be happening, actually. I don't know. You might be visiting them. I don't know. I just saw that. You know, talk to them more often. I think you do talk to them, but you know, just talk to them a bit more often. See them a bit more often if you can. I can see that you're busy in this whole reading, but see them a bit more often than you can. Talk to them a lot. They just want to be around you. They just want to be around you. That's what I'm seeing. So the next card you have for your future is the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, again, here's this shady person. This is what I'm seeing. Here's this shady person in the Seven of Wands. They're going to keep on contacting you. Sorry, I think I touched my microphone again then. I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to try and keep my hands away from it. Yeah, so they're going to keep on contacting you, or they're going to try to. I don't know. They're going to try to keep talking to you a little bit more. I think they still have, at this time, I think they still have this silly, misguided idea that you're not as intelligent as you actually are. What I'm seeing is, I actually think something's going to come out. It's going to be like one word or something they say, and it's suddenly going to become really obvious that their intentions aren't great. And I think you knew this all along. That's what I was seeing in the Seven of Wands. I'm getting this, I'm getting this really embarrassing feeling. So it's like they're probably going to embarrass themselves. A word's going to come out, they're going to say something, and it's going to be very embarrassing. And then they're going to say, oh, this kind of exposes me. That's the kind of thing I'm seeing. Because what's standing out to me in this card again is the yellow. It's an overwhelmingly yellow card, and yellow can represent intellect. So you're very intelligent, and they don't see that once again. And also, if you look at this card, if you look at his helmet, there's growth coming out of his helmet. There's kind of a plant coming out of his helmet. So there's growth coming out of his brain. He's very fertile in his brain. He has a lot of thoughts. He's very smart. So I actually think after this kind of embarrassing conversation, or whatever this is, I think they're actually going to be really quiet after that, and they're not going to come towards you anymore. They're not going to say any more, like this knight who's just sitting here, he's not doing anything. So I don't think you're going to get any more action, any more talk, anything else out of them after they have this embarrassing conversation, or they say whatever this is. That's what I'm saying, and I'm laughing because it's embarrassing. Okay, so the last card you have for your future is the Queen of Swords. So yeah, again, this card can also be about being really intellectually sharp as well with this sword. She's a very, very smart woman. She doesn't take any nonsense. She knows what's coming up to her. It's like, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I can tell whether you're naughty or nice, like Father Christmas. And I'm going to stand here with my sword and say, okay, I know what you're about. I decide whether I let you close to me or not. That's why I've got this sword. That's what she's like. She's very smart. She's also very emotionally sharp. So it's almost like you have this sixth sense. So again, like this queen, you can tell when someone's talking to you for the right reasons and when they're not. And that can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes, like this sword, sometimes it can be feel good to you. Sometimes it can make you feel a little bit alone. But I think generally you think you're better off knowing this about people than not. You like to kind of find out things about people. And again, I think after this conversation, this embarrassing conversation, or this word that they say, or whatever this is they say, I keep on seeing this word that they're saying. I don't know what it is. And it repeats itself. It's almost like it's really embarrassing. It's like, this is what I'm seeing. They say whatever this is, and then at that moment, it's like, oh, I've said that, I've exposed myself, now they know what my intentions are. And it kind of echoes back to them. And like, uh-oh, it's like that. And then they're going to be very quiet after that. So yeah, I think there isn't going to be any need for you to say anything to them. So I think it's going to come out without you having to say anything. Okay, so that was a little bit of a crazy reading. I hope that made sense to you. But as you know, general readings can't always resonate with every single person. And this has turned into a very long reading again. And I try to keep them short. I'm trying. People have said to me, oh, they're too long, they're too long. But I just say what I see. And so sometimes I see a lot of things, so I have to say that. Anyway, if you like this reading, please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you'd like to. Thank you so much for watching.